Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, but I hope you know that. If you don't, you do now. But in any event, we've got a great show for you today because one of the things that all of us have problems with is personal branding. And what I mean by that is, well, we're going to talk to a guy who knows all about personal branding, and he's a consultant, and he helps people figure out who they are so that whether you're a CEO or a COO or an owner or just a person that would like to let everybody in the world know who you are and what you stand for and stuff, a lot of times we don't have an idea. We don't have a clue. Alan McLaren is with us, and he's got a company that is called STRATA Originals, and we're going to talk about all that right now. Welcome to the show, young man. How are you doing?
Well, you're calling me a young man? I love you already.
I am.
But thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Well, you're young. You got to be younger than me. I'm older than dirt, but that's beside the point.
Well, let's talk about that after and compare, because I'm not as young as
exactly. Well, I got to tell you, you're looking fine, young man. You're looking really good. But I wanted to talk to you, and the reason that I'm really excited that you're here is personal branding. They talk about professional branding, and like I've been told for a long time, Positive Talk needs to have a particular brand and all that kind of stuff. But there's something that transcends that, and it's personal branding. What exactly is that?
Well, the simplest way to do it is, what do people say about you when you're not around? That's it.
I hate to ask.
Yeah, well, but that's the whole point, right? At the end of the day, if you think about this, what we often say is your personal brand shows up in the room before you do, and it stays there when you leave. And it's really what people say about you when you're not around. Are they saying the things you want them to say, whether it's in a professional context or a family context or personal context? It's who you are. It's how you come across to the world. That's what a personal brand is. Personal branding is the intentionality of understanding that and communicating that outwardly for whatever's important to you, whether it's doing a podcast or LinkedIn or YouTube or something to communicate that. And we can dive into deeper about that, but it's really coming back to your reputation is all you have. It is an asset. And that's essentially what we're talking about when we talk about a personal brand.
One of the things that we talked about before we began was that, and you framed it this way, there's a lot of fear involved with it because a lot of people don't, when you ask them who they are at their core, they say, I don't know. I guess I'm just a guy or just a gal and stuff, but there's a lot more to it than that, isn't there?
Well, if you think about this, one of the questions we get from the executives we work with is, why would anybody listen to me?
Really?
Yeah, we get it all the time because imposter syndrome is alive and well in corporate America and corporate Canada and the corporations in the world. A lot of CEOs don't realize, and CEOs, leaders, all of those people, they don't always think that they deserved where they got in the world, which is kind of strange. It was strange to us when we started doing this work. But really, when you think about it, Dr. Seuss was right. There's only one you. Only you are you. And believe it or not, there is not another human with your perspectives and your experiences ever invented, because you could grow up in the same city, in the same house, go to the same schools, have the same friends, and yet have a different experience. And those perspectives are really what we're talking about. That's the power of that.
And I think this happens in a lot of families. My sister and my brother and I were sitting in a room one time, and we were talking about our experiences growing up in the same household with the same two parents. And our perspectives were completely different about the experience that we had growing up. And is that kind of what you mean?
Well, it is, but in the context of personal branding, if you're doing it for a business reason. So if we can focus it on that, I think it would be more helpful. People will say, well, I've made it to COO or chief financial officer or CEO. And they ask that question, why would anybody listen to me? Once they uncover that, oh my God, there is a gift, because we reflect that back to them when we do some of our sessions. And they often ask us this question: I never saw myself that way. I never thought of myself that way. Why? You remember the old saying, you can't see the label from inside the jar? How can you when you've never examined how you come across to the world? So we help people figure that out. Once they figure it out, that's when the fear kicks in, because now they have to go, you mean I'm supposed to talk not about myself, but about what I know to the world? And the answer is, yeah, that's what we make you do. We force you to talk about what you know, not for an ego point of view, but for whatever, you look at, Kevin, your experience on both the business side, the sales side, and the media side. If you were to be doing more than this podcast, you could help lots of people figure out the media side, because and you could teach people. And what would happen from that? People will go, that's the kind of guy I want to spend time with, because he's interesting, he's funny, he's knowledgeable, seems like a good person, he seems really honest. This is after spending 5 minutes with you. That's what I see about you based on our short interactions. That's what happens in the real world.
That is simply amazing, because me, as not being a CEO, I mean, I've been a district sales manager and a national sales manager and all that, but
Yeah.
but being a CEO, you would think that these guys have got it all together. They know who they are, they know what they're doing, and then to hear that deep down inside they've got their own insecurities about who they are, and that, are they just lucky, or are they competent, or are they really good? Apparently they don't look at themselves the way other people look at them.
No, and that's the interesting part, right? Perception is reality in the world, right? Always. It's what you perceive someone to be is who they are to you. But when you're thinking about how you come across to the world, how many people actually examine that? I mean, I never did before I got into the business. And now that I've done it and I'm helping people see that, it's actually, some of the things you talk about is, purpose. Well, it's unlocked a purpose in me, because I'm helping people transform from, I didn't know myself, to I know myself. And now I have the confidence to express what I know to others. Like, that's a heck of a move to go from that to I'm comfortable doing it. And CEOs are human. They may not look like they're human, but they're human.
Sometimes they don't act like they're human either.
That's a whole other conversation, but yes.
Because there's a front that they put up when they are in doing that, but there's apparently there's insecurities in the background, and so they think, do some of them actually think that they're a fraud?
I have heard that. Yeah, absolutely. They won't admit it other than to us, because we have very intimate conversations with them. But if you think about this for a moment, a CEO oftentimes thinks they have to put a hat on and saying, I'm putting on my boss hat today. And then when I go home, I'm putting on my father or mother hat, or whatever it happens to be, or spouse hat. In reality, what we try to get people to be is, listen, Alan is talking to Kevin today. If we were having a glass of wine in Seattle, it wouldn't be any different conversation. It's going to be the same conversation. Oh, I happen to be the CEO of this business. Does that change how I act as a human? No. It gives me authority to do things, but I don't have to change my kindness, my interaction, my curiosity, who I am as a core. But CEOs think they need to be curated. And that's a very important message. We're not talking about curating your brand. We're talking about unlocking what's inside you so you can share that, what we say, in the service of others, not in the service of your ego or your curation of who you think people should think about you or what they should think about you.
Well, Alan, I'm just thinking that if people were to go to your company and follow your advice, they would become a much better CEO and a much better leader, wouldn't they?
I think so, because it's really, at the end of the day, personal branding is a leadership tenet. It is the expression of your leadership voice to the world. So what I do in my content, for those who want to see that on LinkedIn, you'll never see me selling. I'm out there teaching people. I will tell you everything you need to know about personal branding. You ask me any question, there's no sacred cows. Why? Because then you'll say, boy, he's given me everything I need to know. I can go do this on my own. And I'm inviting you to go do it on your own. I'd be happy if you did. But for the executives that can't do it on their own for time, energy, or money, they come to us and say, okay, listen, you could teach me this, but I really need a partner to help me do it and execute on it. So I want everybody to build their personal brand, but not everybody can become a client. So I just teach. And that's my job. I teach in the service of others. I don't sell. I invite people into my world.
You said one of the most key things, I think, is being of service to others.
Yeah.
I think that's the highest calling that you can have.
And it's truly, as you know, Kevin, and it's part of what your podcast is all about, you can only really be fulfilled when you're serving others.
That's right.
Right? Because the people that I hang with, they have hit some of the biggest success metrics when you check off boxes of resources. They're not any happier than you and me, because at the end of the day, what you have doesn't equate to how happy you are. In fact, sometimes it's a detriment, not always, but sometimes it's a detriment. So service of others is the foundation of our business. And that's what helps us inform our purpose too.
And isn't that why some CEOs, when you think, oh man, that guy's got everything. He's got the car, he's got the pretty wife, he's got the big house. And yet you talk to them and they're just fundamentally unhappy people.
They are. I mean, not all of them. I mean, some of them, I've got some great friends who have it all. But listen, at the end of the day, not everybody can have it all, be in the top 0.01%. But what we do know is they have those things, but they have other things that fulfill them. They have a lot of love in their lives. They have a lot of friendships. They have a lot of relationships. They give back, and they are philanthropists. Like, it has to be something else other than what you get. And to tie it to personal branding, what we're talking about is in fact, oftentimes I say, if you're a CEO that has had great success, it's your responsibility to share it with others, not the resources, the knowledge. Because you've gained the knowledge over 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 years of a career. Now it's time to spread that out so that other people can learn, your contemporaries, the kids coming up, because how can you gain experience without gaining experience? You can't read about it. You have to live it. So that's what we want people to share, their lived experiences with others via social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, pick it. There's so many options there, but that's what we believe is at least our mandate for others.
There's a guy, I don't know if you follow American football, but his name is Pete Carroll.
Yeah, of course. Seattle. Former coach, Seattle. I do. Yes.
Former, now he's with Las Vegas. And his thing was, it's hard to find good assistant coaches. But what he does is he believes in his assistant coaches and he wants to make them better, to be the best coach that they can be, so that they can get his job hopefully on another team. And that is a very unusual position for someone to take, to put people under their wing and to teach them everything that they know so that they can become a better leader. But in the meantime, they're getting a better employee and a better partner to work with.
The best leaders create other leaders. That's it. That's the story, right? So what Pete Carroll was doing was creating other leaders, because then he can go do other things and not worry about, what the offense is doing or what the special teams are doing. He knows that he can do the macro work because he's got great people who've got all of him and a support. And that's a metaphor for any leader. So Pete Carroll, and I think, at this, he looked like he was a loved coach. His players loved him, right? So he's also a heart leader, you can tell, but he could be a hard ass if he wanted to be, right? But he led with his heart, and he was fallible. And when he made his mistakes, he made a couple, right? But
yes, he did.
A big one. But my point is, people give him the benefit of the doubt because he built those relationships. And what we're talking about is, you do that in your business. You can also build that online. You can build trusted relationships online. In fact, 3 of my best friends, 3 of them all started on LinkedIn. 2 are in America, one's in my city of Toronto. They started on LinkedIn, and they're my best buddies. So it can happen even starting virtually.
It can, and I believe it can happen anywhere. But by the way, we're talking with Alan McLaren, and go to his website, which is STRATA Originals.com. Find out all about him, his services. They even do a podcast, and we're going to talk about that too. But we need to take a quick break real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to talk more with Alan about leadership and great leaders become great leaders because they know great leaders who taught them how to be great leaders in a lot of cases, I think. We'll ask him about that when we come back.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become 7-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Alan McLaren is here. He is a consultant and a coach, and he helps people live their best life and understand personal branding. Because isn't it true, Alan, that your personal brand is really all that you have?
It's your reputation, right? So
exactly.
So if you think about that, is your reputation your asset? It is, as a human, that's all you have. And you know what happens when you screw that up, right? How hard?
No, tell me.
How hard is it to come back from something you screwed up? That that you didn't align with your values or didn't align with who you were supposed to be in the world or who you are supposed to be in the world. So it is all you have. It is an asset. But here's the challenge, Kevin, for everybody listening. Most people will listen to this and go, "That's really good information," and do nothing about it.
We're good at that.
We're real good at that. And so what I encourage people to do is, if you have learned something or will learn something in the next 40 minutes or so, take an action step. And we can talk about what those are, but you have to move forward, because the only way to get better in life is to move with what you've learned and take action. Otherwise, it's just entertainment, and that's fine, but that's not what we're doing today. I don't think we're telling jokes, are we, Kevin? No, I don't think so.
And I can occasionally, well, no, not really. No, but Alan, you're right. If you are known as somebody who doesn't tell the truth all the time, or you're known that you have a lack of integrity, or that you don't pay your bills, or any of those things, you become less than you would like to be, or that you believe that you are.
Yeah. And think about it. If you're a leader in a business, Kevin, if you're a leader in a business, everybody's watching everything you do and everything you don't do. You are on not a magnifying glass, a microscope is on a leader. So that's why when you do things well, you'll get credit for it. If you don't do things, it's going to land on your doorstep too. And if you do bad things, that's even worse. And how do you develop a company that has a great culture? Like Pete Carroll's example. What you're talking about is he built a great culture and built a personal brand by doing it. He wasn't intentional about getting and doing videos and stuff like that. He didn't have to. He was a celebrity, right? And that's a separate conversation. But he built a personal brand. And how do you describe Pete Carroll? Great guy, great coach, great leader, won a Super Bowl, super guy. That's what you describe him. I don't know him. That's how I describe him, because of the perception I have of him, right?
He had an assistant coach, and they had a program in the NFL where females were going to be coaches, and this, I forget her name, but she was going to be on the staff of the Seahawks, and she got a chance. And a reporter said to her, "So, what was it like when you first met Pete Carroll?" And she said, "It was amazing, because the first thing out of his mouth was, 'How can I make you better?
Beautiful.
What can I do to support you, to make you the best coach that you can be?'" And it was like, well, yeah, because people don't talk like that. People, most people aren't vested in the people that they're working with. It's a means to an end for a lot of folks and a lot of CEOs. But I think that's exactly backwards. Do you?
I do, I think, but here's the other part to build on what Pete does for something controllable inside his organization. You have the chance to do that at scale with others. So right now, people say, well, I like to do a podcast because I like to reach people. I like to do speaking gigs because I like to reach people. Well, if you're not on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on TikTok actively sharing what you reach tens of thousands, if not millions of people. At least the potential is there. You can't do that in a speaking gig, right? You can't. And what we recommend people do, Kevin, is actually record videos either on their phone or via some platform, and then tell their stories in 90-second to 2-minute clips. Because here's the magic. When you do that, you're cloning yourself. Because you're out there and many different people are seeing your stuff. Some of them are your friends, some of them are your family, some of them are your coworkers, but some are people you've never met. And now they're going, I either like this guy or I don't like this guy. That's okay, right? But you're out there. Now imagine at the end of a year, you have 50 or 60 or 100 videos. How many people are you reaching now? So what Pete Carroll's doing at a micro level, you can do it at a macro level. And what happens then? Well, when you're known, it's more helpful than when you're not known for whatever is important to you, whether it's raising capital, getting employees, selling stuff, building your podcast. Pick a topic. Being out there is really valuable. In fact, it's a gift to others. Your presence is a gift. And so we want people to be out there.
If I can tell you this real quick story, when I was doing the show in 2003, and I did it for 11 months, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week on KKNW in Seattle. And so I did it a lot. But when you're doing a show, or like you're doing a podcast, or you're out there trying to build a personal brand for yourself, you don't know who you're touching. You have no idea who you're reaching. All you know is that you're trying to do the work the best way that you can and hope. And eventually I had to leave the station because I owed them some, money, and they kind of wanted some money and I didn't have any. And they said, well, we're going to have to pull you off the air. And so I announced half hour in that the show was going off the air, and the phone lines filled up with people I'd never met. I had no idea who they were. And one lady said, I'm sitting here looking at a pile of books I bought because of your show and the great guests you've had on. Another said, because of Dr. Nita and Jerry Armour, the health food store guy, my health is so much better. And I owe it all to the show. I had no earthly idea but we as humans, and I try and tell people this too, we as humans, when we walk to the grocery store and we're talking to the clerk, we are putting our reputation out there for them, and they get to make a judgment as to who we are based upon our behavior when we're just out there talking to people.
Yeah.
And it's so important that to build your brand in a way that makes people say, I would like to see that guy again.
Kevin, it was such a beautiful story, because the people that you touched back then are now listening to you today.
That's true.
We know that. So what happens is, and I'll give you a story about a gentleman who just became a client. He was in the trucking business, and then he moved into mergers and acquisitions in the supply chain area. And he said to me, you know what was interesting, Alan? I didn't know anything about mergers and acquisitions. All the people I worked with in the trucking business followed me. Why? Because they trusted me. So back to reputation, the same story you're telling happens every day. your credibility may move, meaning your expertise or a different job or a different company, that may move. But your humanity stays forever. If you're a good person, people want to help you. That's what humans do. Good humans do that. Bad humans try to tear you down. But that's not what you want in your life. You want good humans. They'll follow you around. If I got into crypto tomorrow, which I will never do, by the way, I would have thousands of people follow me into crypto because they say, I trust Alan and he wouldn't steer me wrong because he never has in 40 years. That's the magic that personal branding does. It is who you are, and it's the tribe that you build around you. So that, again, in your case, what a beautiful move. You got a podcast, they moved from the radio show. Beautiful. Perfect.
Well, Alan, and as I'm sure that you know, and tell me if you had tell your clients this, is that it's not only is it important for you to build your personal brand, it's also a responsibility.
It is. And it's harder to push that narrative because people get very insular sometimes. I'm trying to get them back to that service of others piece. If you really want to be fulfilled, because interestingly, when I'm out there on, with the videos that I have, the comments I get back are more fulfilling than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Like you said, and you made a difference because you made me buy a book, or I've never thought about it that way. Really, I get goosebumps thinking about it because at the end of the day, they're going to put us in a box and they're not going to say, what a great salesperson. They're not. They're not.
They're going to say goodbye.
Well, maybe who knows? But they're going to remember. Maya Angelou's got the best line. It's how you make people feel, right? At the end of the day, humans need loving, supportive life and people in their lives that are part of that. Personal branding is a thing, but what it is the best of your humanity being shared. So you get to share you with the world, your world. It doesn't have to be like Oprah or Gary Vaynerchuk or anybody that big, but you have a tribe. If it's 100 people, that's okay. It's a tribe. So you get a chance to do that intentionally. That's a lot of fun, and the benefits accrue to you in so many ways you cannot even imagine. In fact, I'll just say one last thing on that topic is when you're out there, opportunities exist. If you're not out there, you can't see those opportunities because they don't exist. If you're not out there, you can't see them. And so when you're sitting behind your logo and waiting for stuff to show up on your doorstep and it doesn't, you ask yourself why. If you're out there, your vision goes bigger and people start finding you. That's what's magical about being out there.
It really is. And by the way, we are talking with a really cool dude, man. He's really awesome. And that's the personal brand that you have shown me in the last 30 minutes or 25 minutes that we've been doing the show. And it's really true. Alan McLaren is his name. And go talk to his company, STRATA Originals. In the second half of the show, we're going to talk about STRATA Originals, and we're also going to talk about you're a very intelligent, very down-to-earth, very service-oriented man. Were you born that way, or did you learn that through the experiences in life that you gained?
Would you like to answer that now or after the break?
Well, I'll tell you what, let me take the break a little early because then that gives us more time because I really want to delve into that because people say, man, he's good, but he may not always have been as good as he is today. And I would like to delve into that because it's an important aspect of our growth and our experiences as a human being, and that we never stop growing. And so we will be right back right after this station break. Stay with us. It's just 1:10.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. We got a great show going today because we're talking about you. No, not Alan, but you. If you're sitting out there and you're wondering, how do I get the word out about what I'm doing? How do I do what I'm doing? How do I build my personal brand? I got a guy for you. I know this guy. His name is Alan, and he's got a company, and his company is working diligently to help you. STRATA Originals is the name of the company, and they are diligently helping you learn about your personal brand so that you can become all that you wish to be, and you can become the person that in your heart you already are, but nobody else knows that, and they need to know that in order to get that done. But Alan, you haven't always been this, or maybe you have been. Have you always been this bright and intelligent and service oriented?
No, for sure. But I will start with a quick story about how I came to lead with my heart, because that's how I live my life. I lead with my heart. I have a lot of love in my life, and I'm very fortunate. It started with my mother, who gave me that gift and gave me that confidence. As most moms do, she would support me no matter what. But here's the deal. I was about the worst student you could actually be.
No, I got you. I got you beat.
And there's a lot of fun in this story, because I would do the minimum I could ever do right up until I got to college. And then I woke up and went, okay, you're not an idiot, so actually start working and you can get through this. And the point behind that was, I remember every teacher had the same thing, said, if he would only apply himself. And the reality was I was bored. And so I did the least that I could. But here's what's fun about that. As I got through into my life, into my career, I realized how important, it wasn't formal education that was that important. It was sparking curiosity. And that's what happened to me. I am a voracious learner today. I read a lot. I consume podcasts. I dive into this discipline of personal branding. I want to be known as one of the top experts in the world at it. So for that, I need to study that. I need to go to Harvard. I need to learn all those things. So everything that's coming to you today has been adapted and learned and growth. And then, at the end of the day, when you're in service to others, that knowledge is there to serve others, not to serve me. I will get served by the work I do if I do it properly. And I get so much out of the work we do, because we see people, go from fear to triumph. Like, that's pretty cool. And then now they're transforming others through their work. So I wasn't always like that. But I hope in my next 20 years or 30 years of what's left, I'll keep pushing that narrative.
Oh, you got more than 30 years left. And it doesn't matter. But and this is for all of those that the fact of the matter is, if you don't know this, I'm going to tell this right now. At one point, you're going to die. I know, it's shocking, simply shocking. But what we have the opportunity to do between now and then is to make a difference in the world. And and some people get it, some people don't. You got it, and your mom had a great deal to do with that, but also the hard work you put in and going to Harvard and doing Harvard. You went to Harvard. That's pretty cool.
Well, I don't have a Harvard degree, just to be very clear. I wasn't smart enough to get into Harvard. I did some courses at Harvard. I want to be very clear. I'm not just be very clear. You don't go from a 50 average to Harvard, let me tell you.
Well, and in my case, I was just like you. School bored me. It's like, I know this, then you need to write it down and to take a test. And I was in a school that was very progressive, and they had a unique way of doing stuff. And so I just never took the test. I went to the gym instead. And so that was a problem. But you grew up in a environment that allowed you to think about other people rather than yourself. Is that what you teach your CEOs and the folks who come to you, that that's part of their personal brand, is how they treat other people?
100%. And in some cases, it's a leadership lesson, not just an exercise in personal branding. So one of our clients the other day, we were talking through one of our sessions, and he's been incredibly successful, and he came from the worst background you could ever dream of, and he just triumphed over all of that. But when we started talking about the concept of servant leadership, which really means it's not about you, it's about others, he says, well, I'm pretty direct with people. I said, I'm not talking about the fact that you can be direct with people. Is, do they trust you to know that you're listening? Very important distinction. And what listening means is, I care about your advice. So I often in my leadership journey would ask the question of someone who came to me, and I would say, well, what do you think? I knew the answer because I knew all the answers, because I ran the business and knew the business, but that wasn't developing another leader. That's what Pete Carroll did, right? He'd say, oh, we should try this strategy. What do you think? Well, I think we do this. And maybe he'd learn something because they'd come from a different place. And, oh, that's in it. Now you build on an idea. Good leaders do that. They are curious. They are open. They are good listeners. But when I say good leaders, let's be honest, there's not a lot of good leaders out there. There's a lot of people with the title of leader, but a good leader is someone who makes people feel valued. They lead with heart and kindness. And then, of course, they're good strategists and all the things that good leaders are, but they make people feel good, which is what Pete Carroll did. To use him, overuse Pete Carroll, he's a great example of a good leader.
Oh, without question. And I always believed that when I was a general manager of a restaurant, I took over for a guy who was authoritarian,
Yeah.
and he had a high turnover rate, and he had the I'm the general manager on his chest thing going on. And he thought that being a general manager and wearing the name tag, I'm the boss, I'm really cool. And he liked to listen to himself talk. And so when we had our first meeting with the entire group, and there were like 75 people in the room, and I said, I want you to point out the least important person in this room. And they looked at each other, and they looked at the busboys, and they looked at each other, and the dishwashers and stuff. And I said, no. And I pointed to my assistant managers. There were two of them there, and they said, he's not very important. He's less important, and I'm less than either of them, because I don't do anything for this business. You guys are the ones who talk to our customers who are giving us money to come have a good time in our restaurant. Without you guys, it doesn't exist.
100%. And if you ever have to use the words, I'm the boss, you're not the boss.
You think you are, but and it's not. I guess a lot of people decide that they want to become the boss because they want the power. They want to be the prestige or let me ask you, why do people decide that they want to be the CEO and are driven to succeed? Is it the money? Is it the power? What is it?
I'm not sure they ever decide. Now, there's the founders who build businesses that would be different, right? So they're looking for that. But becoming a CEO, you're usually working your way through a corporation, right? Mm-hmm. And you're ideally building relationships that are helpful and succeeding so that you're the next in line. And usually you come up through the finance side or you come up through the sales side. That's kind of how a leader, and sometimes the engineering side, but depending on the type of business. But I think leadership is thrust upon you as opposed to you necessarily seeking it out. Some kids come in and say, I want to be the CEO. Great. You're 22 years old. You don't know anything. CEO doesn't happen until you're 45. You got 20 years of deposits to make before you can get there. So at the end of the day, I think for me, if I look at my leadership journey, which is the only one I could really compare to, is I was always a leader, whether it was at school or a sports team, they always point it to me, and it still happens today. I can go to a room of 10 people, of people I've never met, and they need a spokesperson. I won't open my mouth. Alan, would you be the spokesperson? Because there's this thing, and I think you've said this before, energy matters. People feel energy. They feel leadership. You don't have to talk. And so good leaders, I think, have a gentle energy, but a confident energy. And people feel they can trust them with whatever it is in their world. And if you do that and you become a CEO, what a great opportunity, because now people care about you, like you, and will go to the wall for you. Isn't that what you want? I'm sure you learned that as a general manager versus the other guy, right? They'll go to the wall for you because you treated them well and you supported them. And when bad things happen, you would side with them, not the customer, because that's what a good leader does. And again, an example of reputation and building a personal brand, that you go from job to job to job, that follows you, the good stuff and the bad stuff, by the way.
I always said the customer's right to their face.
Exactly. Yes.
And so they'll give them the free meal or whatever it takes to make them happy. But when they leave, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to call you out because the customer was wrong and often cases and stuff. But that's, and people will go to the mat for you if you will go to the mat for them. That's a basic, but a lot of business leaders don't look at it that way. And I don't understand. And you're right. There aren't a lot of really good leaders out there. Why not? I know there's no school to learn how to be a good leader, but
well, let me contrast it. There are millions of programs that you could take on great leadership, but it's like the same thing. I would equate it to, you can read about baseball, you can read about golf, but going to do it is a different thing. Leadership, the concepts are not complicated, but you're dealing with fellow humans. That's not easy because they come at it with some perceptions. You come at it with perspectives. You are stressed and you've got all this stuff and things are going on. You're traveling. And so you can't always be 100% at your best, and they can't be 100% at their best. But when it works, it's magic. But the leader has to drive that. The leader has to drive that. They have to be better in spite of themselves, in spite of their own idiosyncrasies and imposter syndrome and whatever, because they're all different. They're all different types of leaders. And the authoritarians work for a while because they scare the crap out of people. But it's not a long-term strategy. So if you're trying to do a turnaround in your business, you don't need a loving guy or a loving woman. You need a hard ass to come in, tear it up, put it on the right track, get it going, fire people without thinking, and go. And then someone else will take over and do all the lovey, touchy, soft things and human things that really are important in a business. But leaders come in different shapes and sizes for different reasons. The ones we work with all of the different types. We try to get them to be authentically them. I tell people, if you're a hard ass, I can't make you a heart leader. That's who you are. So let's be clear on who you are. And that's what you communicate to the world, because that's your authentic self. If you're a heart leader, let's share that with the world. And it's okay, because if you're a tough person, but people can trust you, they'll live with that. If you can't be trusted, doesn't matter if you're a heart leader or a head leader or a tough leader. If they can't trust you, it doesn't matter. That's where all of that comes together. And that's your reputation that we talked about at the beginning of our podcast. That's what follows you forever. Trust.
It's a huge factor, because you're absolutely right. You can if people trust you and trust that you've got their best interest at heart, you can be hard on them. But as long as they get the fact that you're trying to get the best out of them for whatever reason that they're there for, I think. Is that right?
I think it's absolutely right. It's in the day, they've got to believe that you're supporting their careers. And sometimes the CEO doesn't get down to the staff level if it's a big enough company. But if it's the executive team, his or her immediate reports, that's what they have to feel. Because remember, when you have a report of 7, they all want the next job. So
and they all want your job too.
That's what I mean. The next job is your job because there's nothing in between. There's 7 reports and you got to be the band leader on how you figure that out and who you're testing for the next job. Very much like Pete Carroll said, at some point, I won't be the CEO here. That CEO job is 3 to 5 years. So I have to prepare my next replacement for the good of my reputation because it's for the good of the business. My job is to run the business profitably. And at the end of the day, that's the job of its corporation, serve its customers profitably and shareholders profitably. How do you do that? It's all about people. So you got to have the right people in the right place to do the right things so the business can be successful. That's their biggest job, is the people stuff, the executive team, and balancing all that stuff is not easy. Not easy. That's why they get well paid.
But at the same time, if you have a successful leader in that position, your business will flourish and the people will stay and turnover will go down, which is a big deal. When we come back from this break, I want to ask you, why doesn't anybody talk about turnover? Why is it not on the P&Ls of companies? Because I think it's a big deal. We'll be right back. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin@kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Alan McLaren is with us. And by the way, go to his website and go work with his company, STRATA Originals. I got to ask you, Alan, how'd you come up with the name STRATA Originals?
So I got to give my full credit to my business partner, Leanne. So STRATA stands for a stratosphere. Our job is to help people take them up to the stratosphere, but everybody's an original.
Isn't that
That's
cool?
how the name came together. So we'll take you to the stratosphere, one human at a time, not a collective, not a curation, and that's where the name came from.
And so I'm assuming then that you interview people and you talk to them about their specific strengths and what their motives are and what they want to get to, and then you tailor a program for them to do that?
Yeah, so the first step we do is we call their personal branding leadership platform. We do a 90-minute forensic interview. We have about 40 questions that we ask them, and it's everything from, their leadership style to what people think about them to what are they known for, what's their credibility, and then we get into some deep stuff, some really emotional stuff, like what advice would you give your 12-year-old self? And we start to understand the depth of emotion and how they see themselves, and then we come back to them with, here's how we see you based on what you gave us. And that's kind of a strategic plan that identifies you as the human, how and what you should talk about, and what is the strategy behind that. And then we help them with a content plan, and then we help them either coach them if they want to be coached, or we do the work for them, and we recommend they do video. That's the only work we do, is we're recording video, and that's your content, and we'll help be your back office when you do that. And that's the work we do. And it lasts for years, because your personal brand doesn't stop. You never get there. You go, I got my personal brand, I'm done. It's not a thing. Not a thing.
You got to continue to work at it and develop it. We had when I was in food service sales, we had a new boss who came to us and he said, "This is a sales organization, and I'm going to treat sales as something special, and it is sales and sales support."
Yeah.
And then he didn't live up to that,
of course,
that ideal, because he couldn't. that wasn't even a realistic promise. He was just spewing to spew, and it turned out that he had to support the operations of the business and the minimums and what we would bring in and all that kind of good stuff. So it was all just a bunch of crap, and he got known for being a crap spewer.
Of course. But here's the fun part about that. In a company, here's the advice for everybody: you're all in sales. I don't care if you're reception or picking up the garbage. You are in sales. You're on a golf course and you're doing maintenance. And I was playing golf the other day, and this young lady came up. Are you having a good day, sir? She was raking the sand trap. Are you having a good day, sir? I said, yes. How's your day going? Well, I'm in the sunshine. What can go wrong? Oh. So what does that do? That leaves me with a positive impression of the golf course that I'm playing. Everybody's in sales. Everybody's in marketing, because if the company does well, surprise, surprise, you do well. So we're all in sales all the time, not in the traditional way, but in the brand of the company, and ergo the brand of those people. That's also important, right?
That is actually brilliant. I have run across a lot of people that say, "Oh no, I can't sell. I'm not in sales. I'm not a salesman." But the reality is, every time they walk down the street, they're selling something. They're selling themselves, or selling their brand, or not.
Yeah, 100%. But anyways, it's a fun way to think about it. But I think it's important that leaders understand, as you said earlier, there's a responsibility that they have to get out there, be leaders by sharing what they know with the world. And it's not easy to do, for sure. But I'll tell you, when you learn the skill of telling a story in under 2 minutes, right? That's a skill. To do a video right now, point it at your face and talk for 2 minutes and stop at 2 minutes and get it ready to go on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever, it is a skill. But when you learn it, it is empowering, because if you said to me today, Kevin, after now I've got probably over 100 videos out there, Alan, can you do a video on that? Sure, Kevin. What topic would you like me to talk about? I could point this phone at my face, talk for 2 minutes, push the button, push it on LinkedIn, and be done, because I've learned the skill of telling a story in under 2 minutes. That is available to everybody, because storytelling, you're in the storytelling business, is what humans want to hear. They don't want to hear, here's the 3 bullets on why you should be combing your hair right to left. No one cares. But if you tell them a story about that, they'll remember it. That's what we try to teach people, how to do that.
And to become a good storyteller is paramount to building your best personal brand.
It is.
And should they be telling personal stories of good things that have happened and not so good things that have happened and stuff, or does it even matter?
It matters, because they're connecting to you, they're investing in you, not just what you know. So you tell stories that make you human. You tell stories you're comfortable sharing. You shared some stories about what happened when I have stories of positive and stories that I've been through to hell and back. I'm happy to tell those stories if people ask me when it's relevant. Because as a leader, guess what? The alligators have been at your ankles when you're a leader. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. There are real tough stories in those worlds. What happens when you tell them? People trust you. They see that it's, not a perfect Disney curated world. No, it's not. That's the real world. The real world is hard. The real world of business is hard. But it doesn't mean you can't teach people what you've learned. So it's both good stories, bad stories, and the things you've learned, the lessons you've learned, the stories you can tell. If you've been at it for 40 years, like I have, 45 years probably, I have a lot of stories. I probably have more stories that I could ever tell in a lifetime. I've forgotten half of them, but they're all lessons that shape me and shape the people around me.
It is, you are one of those guys that you have great energy, you've got great heart, and people can sense that in you. And you're right, without you even saying anything, people can sense that's who you are at your core. And then that brings trust along with it. And then that brings, I want to get to know Alan a little bit better, because he's a really cool guy, and I can trust him. And
has that, Kevin. I sorry to interrupt you. Everybody has that ability because you're not me and I'm not you. You are you. So you have a chance to share that with the people that matter to you. Like it's just that people hide, and we always tell people they hide behind their logo in a business. And they said, "Well, I'll market the business." Great. Let me ask you this question: what's more trusted, a business or a person? A person. Always. So if you're spending all your money, I was talking to a guy earlier, I asked him, you spent money on your rebrand. What did you spend? So I spent $1 million on my rebrand. I said, how did it go? He says, well, the rebrand worked. I said, what do the customers say? Nothing. You spent $1 million. And I said, but you also ignored you and your executive team. Yeah, I did. So what would happen with the 20,000 people that you all know collectively on LinkedIn? He goes, good point. I said, so imagine if they all knew what you did for a living, really, they could provide referrals to you and be testimonials for you and all kinds of things because you're activating your tribe. But people miss that. And there's so much power in there, Kevin, that we keep evangelizing every day to get people to realize the power of a CEO and their team, if you do it right, is magic. But most people don't do anything about it. And that's sad.
Is it because they don't have the time, don't have the willpower, don't have the knowledge? Which one, or all of the above?
It's all of the above. We call it time, energy, money, right? So it's usually, so time is sometimes a factor, but oftentimes they don't even think about it because they don't know it's a problem yet. So they look at it as a missed opportunity, but they go, well, I'm always missing opportunities. And we're trying to get them to go, you realize what we're talking about here. If you as a CEO were building your personal brand, you have, let's call it 3,000, 5,000 people on your LinkedIn. How many people actually know what you do for a living other than you're a CEO? The average is about 10%. So that means 500 of your 5,000 people could actually refer you. That's 4,500 people that can't. Now you have 7 executives that each have 5,000. That's 35,000 people with the same problem. What will happen if you were all singing from the same songbook and you were all out there on behalf of the company values and your own personal values being out there? What could happen? We know what could happen, but no one gets it. So my job, part of these podcasts, is to spread that gospel so people go, you know, he's right. I should think about this. That would be magic for them because their business would go through the roof and none of their competitors would not know what hit them.
Yeah.
But
well, and as you know, people leave jobs and money is like 7 or 8. Job satisfaction is like number 1.
always.
And if you're building a society or a culture that is accepting and is trying to build up everybody, and then I used to call, when I was in the restaurant business, I used to call it diving for tables. And I said, I want everybody to, when you see an empty plate, dive for it, get it out of their face, and take really good care of them, because that's how we make our money and that's how we build the brand and stuff. So I want to thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. And we have just a minute left, and as if you can, well, I'll tell you what, here's a challenge for you. Let's do your 2-minute video now. You got a minute and a half to come up with something great that we can then put on YouTube.
Sure, absolutely. So let's think about why people don't build their personal brand. So the number one thing we see is fear. And what is fear? Fear is fear of being authentic, fear of not knowing what to say, fear of looking stupid, fear of what my friends are going to say is the number one thing we deal with. So how do we deal with fear? The first time that you have fear is as my business partner says, and it's a beautiful statement, that fear doesn't know the difference between a LinkedIn post or a bear, right? It doesn't know the difference. But, oh, by the way, there is a difference between a LinkedIn post and a bear. And so what we tell people to break their fear down is learn as much as you can on the front end so that you break down, okay, I don't know it. Practice it without posting. See how it feels. And then go on LinkedIn and start commenting on other people's stuff. Start to build relationships without posting a thing. And you know what will happen? You'll start to gain the confidence, will break the fear down, and maybe at the end of that time, you'll point this at your face and create a video and put it out there. And then maybe it'll be quiet for a while. Then you do a second and a third and a fourth, and it starts to build momentum, and fear just melts away. That's what I would say is the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity in front of everybody.
And momentum is a really cool thing.
It's real.
And Alan McLaren has been our guest. Go to strataoriginals.com to find out more about him. I want to thank you so much for being here. It's been a sensational hour. And I wish you well in all that you do. And thank you for leading with your heart. And I wish you could, you're in Canada, I wish you could bring it down here, but that's a story for another time. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at kmmedia.pro.